Dandelion Princess here, and welcome back to Imp Headquarters. Today, it is finally time to take a deeper look into Moxxie's character. Honestly, Moxxie was actually the first Helluva Boss character that I wanted to do a character analysis on, but at the time, I just thought there was a big piece to his puzzle missing, and I didn't really feel right about doing an analysis without that. And of course, with everything that was going on with Loona at the time, I obviously ended up doing an analysis of Loona first. But at this point, I do feel like we have enough information for me to properly break down Moxxie's character and hopefully shed some light on things that people aren't really giving him credit for. Though Moxxie, I wouldn't say is necessarily a hugely hated character, I do think he is often very misunderstood. Just like with my Loona analysis, do keep in mind that this is of course just based on my experience with the series and with the character, so there are definitely things that I may not have picked up on or may have interpreted differently than some of you guys. But in any case, I am super excited to discuss Moxxie more in depth, as he is a very special character for me since he is actually the first character in the series that I got super attached to. So let's jump right in. To fully understand Moxxie, we do have to discuss his parents a little bit. Moxxie comes from a very well-off mafia family, with his father Crimson at the head. Now, a lot of people question why someone seemingly like Moxxie's mother would even end up with someone like Crimson in the first place. And we don't know much about Moxxie's mother to begin with. We don't even know her name. The only thing that we really know is that she's from Wrath. And with Moxxie's backstory mainly being told with no dialogue, it leaves a lot to the imagination and a lot to speculate on. Honestly, I feel like it could be its own video on its own, discussing Crimson and his relationship with Moxxie's mother. But to keep it short and sweet, now I believe Moxxie's mother knew exactly what she was getting into with Crimson. After all, it doesn't really take much to see what kind of person Crimson is. And honestly, I think originally Moxxie's mother was all for it. Imps are pretty low on Hell's hierarchy. Most imps struggle day to day, having very hard lives, and especially with Moxxie's mother coming from Wrath, it's likely she had a very difficult childhood. Crimson, though, was able to make a name for himself, being the most well-off imp that we have seen in the series so far. I don't think it's a stretch to think Moxxie's mother was down for that lifestyle, and possibly even the idea of her potential children going into the business as well. Her only miscalculation was underestimating just how far Crimson would go, and just how toxic things between her and him would get once Moxxie was born. But I do think she had a change of heart when Moxxie was actually born. Having a kid definitely changes a lot of perspectives, and I think especially after his mother realized what a sweet, sensitive boy Moxxie was, she didn't want to see him go down the path of his father. Now, everything with Crimson is pretty complex, both in the way he treats Moxxie's mother and Moxxie. It does definitely make sense though with his mafia background. Men in the mafia are often very old-fashioned. They take great pride in their family and providing for their family, and are often very protective, especially of their women. often going to the lengths of killing someone for so much as looking at their woman. That being said, they also very much believe in the whole idea women should be seen and not heard. The wife and children are basically an extension of themselves. They represent the family, but there is definitely a line to be towed. All of this is represented perfectly within Crimson's character. And all represented within one episode, mind you. We see that he desperately wants Moxxie to follow in his footsteps because, again, he represents the family, and being the only child, he expects Moxxie to take his place someday. When it comes to Moxxie, Crimson obviously hated how much his mother doted on him, obviously thinking she was holding him back, but I do also think there was some jealousy there. I think Crimson resented how much attention Moxxie got from his mother. I mean, this scene really stood out to me. I think Crimson's feelings towards his wife were very complicated. He was obviously very possessive of her, and at the very least infatuated by her, or else he wouldn't have married her. But I think he definitely began to resent both her and Moxxie the closer they became to one another. Long story short though, Moxxie's mother crossed the line one too many times. She quickly became an obstacle, so Crimson handled the situation the only way he really knows how, making him Moxxie's sole parent, and man did he do a number on Moxxie. This is where it gets interesting though, because I see no indication through the series that Moxxie knows the true fate of his mother, which leads me to believe I really don't think he knows she's dead. I think it's very likely that Crimson just made up some story, probably telling Moxxie that his mother ran out on them and that she just left. Crimson is super manipulative, and that would have been the perfect way to get Moxxie to lose faith in the one person he trusted most. Not only that, but it would have planted the very small seed that would grow to become Moxxie's fatal flaw. But more on that later. Crimson also established in Moxxie early on a very huge and real fear. Something that literally sticks with Moxxie until he is an adult. Moxxie's childhood and, well, just most of his early life was spent in fear of Crimson and basically just trying to prove himself to Crimson, doing his best to follow in Crimson's footsteps. That being said though, it is very evident the connection Moxxie had with his mother, and even with the thought that she might have abandoned him, those very early years with her definitely stuck with him as he very much stayed in tune with his sensitive side, very much being into music and a lot of fancy high society type stuff. That is definitely not to say that Crimson didn't try to beat it out of Moxxie. Crimson traumatized Moxxie so much to the point that Moxxie can't even stand to look at people in masks, such as mascots, likely associating them with the people that he had to kill. So even as an adult, he is uncomfortable and unnerved by them.
Theme parks always disturb me, especially the mascots.
Well, hey there!
This isn't to say his childhood was all bad though. I definitely think as the only child to the leader of the mafia, in terms of material things, I don't think Moxxie ever really wanted for anything, leading him to have a more expensive taste. He definitely led a very privileged life compared to most imps in hell, which leads Moxxie to have a bit of a sense of entitlement, even in the present day of the show. And Moxxie just overall often thinks he's the smartest in the room. which, not for nothing, also growing up in the mafia, he obviously did learn a great deal about weapons and became very tactful and cunning within his craft. As I said, Moxxie had a very big fear of Crimson, but that's not to say he never rebelled or took any risks. Enter Moxxie's first love interest, Chaz, undoubtedly the biggest risk Moxxie ever took while he was still in the mafia. It's made super clear that Moxxie and Chaz had to kind of have their relationship behind closed doors for very obvious reasons. Crimson absolutely didn't approve, though he definitely knew about the relationship. Point is, Moxxie found someone that he thought was very like-minded to him, and after so many years of feeling alone, he was very vulnerable and easily accepted and trusted Chaz. Now, I've said this before, but I will definitely touch on it here. I think Moxxie and Stolas have a lot of things in common and a lot of similarities. Their stories really do parallel each other, especially within both of their first relationships. Both Moxxie and Stolas being very inexperienced and taking most of their relationship cues from their partner. In this case being Chaz and Blitz respectively. But more on that when I actually do an episode on Stolas and Blitz. The point is, Chaz was a very physical being, and since it was Moxxie's first relationship, not only did he not see any red flags with that and trusted Chaz unconditionally, he basically just followed Chaz's lead in just about everything. Of course, that is only until their heist gone wrong, where Chaz's true colors come out, and he ditches Moxxie, leading to Moxxie ending up in jail. Now, before I start talking about Moxxie's current day relationships, I have to take a minute to talk about the ramifications of all of this. From most likely thinking his mother ran out on him, to the way Crimson raised him, to seeing his first love bail on him when he needed him the most, Moxxie's greatest fear and fatal flaw was born.
I am scared of rejection.
Moxxie's fear of rejection. Something that has held Moxxie back time and time again. It affects just about every aspect of his life and every one of his relationships. It's why he often lets Blitz just walk all over him. It's why he tries so hard to prove himself to everyone, whether it's Millie's parents, whether it's Blitz. It really doesn't matter. If Moxxie's self-worth is put into question, heaven help him, because it will literally consume him. I'm not kidding, Moxxie almost died because of it. Where he is normally calm and collected, he will easily lose sight of the most basic things. Whether it's Millie's feelings, something he's normally very attentive to, or even forgetting the fact that he has a gun on him that absolutely could have turned the tides in his fight against Stryker. Moxxie is desperate to be seen as useful and honestly desperate to be seen in general. One last thing I kinda want to touch on before moving on from Moxxie's childhood fully. It's very evident that Moxxie didn't really get to develop socially very well. He's often very bad at reading people and has a very hard time with social cues, whether it's taking Blitz seriously when he's being sarcastic or just not being able to read the room in general. It's not nearly as bad of a hindrance as his fear of rejection is, but it definitely leads to misunderstandings and things of that nature. Now, when it comes to Moxxie's relationship with Blitz, I feel like this is where a lot of fans get misconceptions. They just really misunderstand Moxxie in this area, and Moxxie and Blitz in general here. I won't go too far into things on Blitz's end here, but definitely from Moxxie's end, both his sense of entitlement and fear of rejection are at play here. This is why Moxxie has this very hot and cold attitude towards Blitz, one minute being very submissive and basically Blitz's doormat, and the next minute he's criticizing Blitz and fighting with him. Bottom line though, Moxxie super respects and looks up to Blitz. Blitz is absolutely Moxxie's best friend, whether he wants to admit it or not. Moxxie and Blitz met when Moxxie was at his lowest point in what is to this day one of my favorite moments from Hell of a Boss in general.
So, what are you in for? Okay, not much of a talker, are we? I'm Blitz, the O is silent. I'm sure we're gonna get along just fine. So what's your deal? What'd you do? Who'd you diddle? You look like someone who's good with a gun. You look like someone who'd shoot up an office, and I hope you are. So I got a plan to get us out of this dump, but I'm gonna need some help. You think you can give me a hand? I need to get out to my daughter. The babysitter will kill me if I don't get back soon. You like kids? 'Cause let me tell you, they're a fucking door.
It's just so sweet and genuine between the two. Just seeing how much meeting Blitz means to Moxxie, both in that moment and as Moxxie's looking back on the moment. As much as Moxxie sometimes dislikes and disapproves of Blitz's actions and crazy antics, he is fiercely loyal to Blitz and IMP. With that being said, I do think a lot of people dismiss Moxxie's trip sequence, which, I mean, next to Blitz's trip sequence, I do understand it, but Moxxie's trip sequence definitely is still super important to his character and to his relationship with Blitz. Not only confirming Moxxie's biggest fear, but confirming that Moxxie does get very bothered by the way Blitz treats him. And Moxxie facing Blitz and telling him off was a very good and big step in the right direction, even if this wasn't the real Blitz, and the real Blitz will never really know of this. It was Moxxie acknowledging his role within their relationship, and honestly, the things he says to this Phantom Blitz here are very telling, in my opinion, honestly. It shows just how observant Moxxie is in the fact that he can read Blitz like a book. And even though Blitz really doesn't talk about himself or his feelings, Moxxie understands him.
Why do you hurt me so?
I know.
Why must you
I push my friends away.
Why does it seem like a recurring thing that you alienate with your toxic routine?
I don't know. Eventually everyone goes.
Because you're thoughtless and cruel and you'll end up alone.
When it comes to Moxxie's work at IMP, like every other aspect of his life, he tries to be as useful as possible, constantly trying to learn more about weaponry and to improve his skills. Growing up in the Mafia definitely helps him in this area, and it's honestly how he got hired in the first place, obviously. Not only that though, but it seems that Blitz relies on Moxxie for a lot of the other aspects of IMP as well. Moxxie seems to keep track of the finances of IMP and taking care of several things around the office. He is very passionate about his work, even when he seemingly wasn't all that thrilled when Blitz obtained the Grimoire and they started targeting humans over other Hellborn demons. His loyalty to Blitz and the company definitely made him buck up and adapt to the change. despite it obviously making him a bit uncomfortable and conflicting with his morals. Now, I can't very well talk about Moxxie without talking about his other half, Millie. First off, I love his relationship with Millie. Though the two aren't perfect, they are perfect for each other, each providing what the other one needs to round them out. This goes for in their day-to-day life and when they're on the battlefield. On the battlefield, they are both more efficient fighting together, being absolutely in sync and picking up the slack where the other one lacks. They make for a super deadly duo. They definitely are each other's greatest strength, but at the same time, they are also each other's greatest weakness. It is very easy for one to get the upper hand in a fight against them just by simply using one against the other. Not only that, but the duo is easily distracted by each other, to put it lightly, and they are very prone to losing track of the task at hand. Though they have very different personalities, they both do their best to accommodate the other. Millie specifically brings Moxxie the stability in his life that he absolutely needs to be grounded. I absolutely love the parallel between Millie and Chaz. Chaz, of course, running away the minute things got difficult, while Millie has literally risked her life time and time again to save or help Moxxie. With his insecurities, Millie is absolutely the type of person Moxxie needs to be with. The two definitely have a bit of codependency and some separation anxiety. I think this is a little bit more prone in Millie, but it's definitely something that they both share. Overall, they're both very forgiving of each other's flaws, and even when they fight, they are very quick to make up. Overall, just a super well-rounded couple. Despite the very heavy hints that they got married very quick into their relationship. Now, discussing Moxxie's relationship with Loona a little bit, Moxxie definitely understands Loona the least out of everybody. There is, of course, a pinch of prejudice against hellhounds in general, I think, but also Moxxie very much relates self-worth to how useful you are. Moxxie, who is very dedicated to his job and does everything in his power to prove himself useful, he very much takes offense and resents Loona for how little work she does, how dismissive she is for the job and unenthusiastic she seems, and also I think how she got the job. Since she's Blitz's adoptive daughter, she didn't have to prove herself or do anything noteworthy to get her position and be a part of IMP. It's definitely a two-way street with them because Loona absolutely takes advantage of his insecurities. At this stage, neither one of them has really extended the white flag, so to speak, so it's a constant back and forth between the two. Overall, Moxxie had a very troubling and difficult childhood that left him with a bunch of trauma and things that he still has to overcome. But I love the way his trauma is depicted within the series. It doesn't just magically disappear because he's in a good, healthy relationship and has a stable job. There are still plenty of things that trigger his insecurities and bring out that trauma. At the end of the day, I find Moxxie to be a super endearing character. His trust is hard-earned, but once you do, he is fiercely loyal. He's very passionate and puts his heart into everything he does. Despite his upbringing, he stayed true to who he is. Honestly, I really am super excited to see just where his character goes, and I will be very interested to see if Moxxie ever does find out the true fate of his mother, But I want to hear what you guys think. Is there anything about Moxxie that you maybe interpreted a little different than me? What is your favorite Moxxie moment so far in the series? And what are you most excited for or hoping for to happen next with his character? If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more Helluva Boss and Has-Been Hotel content. Thank you all so much for watching and see you guys next time.